Captain Li Quan stood in the giant meeting hall on Station Prime, home of the Galactic Federation. His hands were behind his back as he watched dozens of alien species talking in their strange languages. Some looked like giant insects, others had scales like lizards. A few floated in the air with no legs at all. 5 years ago, humans had no idea any of this existed. Now Li Quan was here, representing all of Earth in this massive space station that orbited a distant star. The humans will take cargo run for 7B, announced High Regent Vorthok. The insect-like alien's voice buzzed like an angry bee. His four arms moved as he spoke, pointing at a hologram that showed star maps. They will carry supplies to the Outer Rim colonies. Li Quan stepped forward. What kind of ship will we get for this mission? Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Vorthok's compound eyes gleamed with what looked like amusement. You will get the ship that fits your abilities. 2 hours later, Li Quan stood in Docking Bay 94, staring at the worst-looking spaceship he had ever seen. The Resilience was covered in rust spots and dents. One of the engine pods was held on with metal patches. Wires hung out of open panels like the guts of a dead animal. This is a joke, said Park Yuna, the ship's engineer. She walked around the vessel, shaking her head. Her tool bag clinked as she moved. Half these systems should not even work. The navigation computer is from the Stone Age, added Kim Taiho, their pilot. He was young, maybe 25, with quick eyes that saw everything. My grandmother's car had better tech than this. Choi Nara, their communications officer, was reading from a datapad. According to the records, this ship failed its last 6 safety checks. The previous crew refused to fly it. Jang Minho, their weapons specialist, kicked one of the landing gear supports and made a hollow ringing sound. The weapon systems are offline. The shields barely work. We might as well fly a tin can into space. Li Quan sighed. At 42, he had commanded ships in Earth's Navy for 15 years. But those were Earth ships, built by humans for humans. This alien junk pile was something else entirely. They want us to fail, he said quietly. The Federation never wanted humans to join. We're too new, too different. They think we're primitive. So what do we do? Asked Park Yuna. She was brilliant with machines, able to fix things that other engineers gave up on. If anyone could make this ship work, it was her. We proved them wrong, Li Quan said. We take this mission and we complete it perfectly. The crew spent the next 3 days working on the Resilience. Park Yuna crawled through the engine rooms, fixing what she could with spare parts and determination. Kim Taiho ran test after test on the flight systems, learning every quirk and problem. Choi Nara worked on the communications array, trying to get clear signals from the damaged equipment. Jang Minho cleaned and repaired what weapons they had, though most were barely functional. On the 4th day, Admiral Zenth arrived for their departure briefing. The reptilian alien was tall and covered in green scales. His yellow eyes looked at the humans like they were insects. Your cargo is medical supplies for Colony 7 and Colony 12, Zenth said in perfect English. His voice was cold and flat. The route is simple. Even you should be able to follow it. Li Quan looked at the star chart. The colonies were in the Outer Rim, far from any major shipping lanes. If something went wrong out there, help would be days or weeks away. What about escort ships? Li Quan asked. Escort ships. Zenth's mouth opened slightly, showing sharp teeth. For a cargo run, you overestimate your importance. There have been attacks in that region, Choi Nara said, checking her datapad. Pirates and worse things. The Resilience is armed, Zenth replied. Barely, but armed. You will be fine. That evening, the crew gathered in the ship's small mess hall. The table was scratched and dented. The food dispenser only worked half the time. Everything about the ship screamed unwanted and disposable. I've been thinking, Park Yuna said, poking at her meal with a fork. This ship is old, but it's not Federation tech. The design is all wrong. The power systems are different. Kim Taiho nodded. The control layout is strange too, like it was built for different hands, different minds. The computer core has gaps in its memory, Choi Nara added. Big sections that were wiped or damaged. But what's left? It's not like any Federation software I've seen. Jang Minho was cleaning his sidearm, a human weapon that looked primitive next to alien energy guns. Maybe that's why they gave it to us. It's so old and broken that nobody else wants it. Li Quan stared out the small porthole at the stars. Tomorrow, they would leave Station Prime and head into the unknown. In a ship that barely worked, with weapons that barely functioned, carrying cargo to colonies that might not even exist anymore. There's something else, Park Yuna said quietly. When I was working on the power core today, something weird happened. The system responded to my touch in a way it shouldn't have. Like it recognized me. Recognized you how? Li Quan asked. I don't know. But for a moment, the whole engine hummed differently. Smoother, more powerful. Then it went back to normal. The next morning, they prepared for departure. Other ships in the docking bay were sleek and new, with crews of confident aliens who looked at the humans with pity or amusement. The Resilience looked like a scrap heap next to them. High Regent Vorthok came to see them off. His 4 arms gestured dismissively at their ship. Try not to die out there, humans. It would be embarrassing for the Federation. We'll do our best, Li Quan replied calmly. As the Resilience slowly pulled away from Station Prime, Kim Tai noticed something odd. The ship's navigation system was showing star charts that weren't in the official Federation database. Ancient routes through space that led to places with no names. Captain, he said, I think this ship knows things we don't. Park Yuna was monitoring the engines from her station. The power core was humming again, that same strange harmony she had heard before. It was almost like the ship was waking up after a long sleep. All systems are green, she reported. Better than green. Actually, everything's running smoother than it should, as they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Federation station behind. None of them realized they were flying in a vessel that would change the galaxy forever. They only knew they had been given the worst ship, the worst mission, and the worst odds. They had no idea they were about to discover why. 3 weeks into their journey, the Resilience was running better than anyone expected. Park Yuna had fixed most of the broken systems, and the ship seemed to respond to her touch like a loyal pet. The engines hummed with a strange music that made the whole vessel feel alive. Captain Li Quan was drinking coffee in his quarters when the alarm rang through the ship. He rushed to the bridge where Choi Nara was at her station, her face pale with worry. Captain, we're getting a distress signal, she said, her fingers flying over the controls. It's coming from the Scientific Glory, a Federation research ship. Kim Tai-ho looked up from his pilot seat. That's not on our route. They're way off the main shipping lanes. What's their situation? Li Quan asked. Choi Nara listened to her headset, her expression growing darker. They're under attack. Something called the Voidborn. The crew is screaming about ships that came out of nowhere. Jang Minho entered the bridge, checking his weapons. Voidborn. Never heard of them. Neither have I, Choi Nara said, but they sound terrified. The main screen flickered to life, showing a star map. A red dot marked the Scientific Glory's position, far from any help. Li Quan stared at the display, thinking hard. Any Federation ships responding? He asked. 3 destroyers were in the area. Choi Nara replied, but they're all pulling back. Their commanders say the attackers are too dangerous, so they're leaving the research ship to die. Park Yuna said from the engineering station. Looks that way. Li Quan closed his eyes for a moment. Every military instinct told him to stay away. The Resilience was barely armed and definitely not built for combat. But somewhere out there, people were dying while the mighty Federation fleet ran away. Set course for the Scientific Glory, he ordered. Kim Tai-ho spun around in his chair. Captain, are you sure? We don't even know what we're flying into. I'm sure. We can't just listen to people die and do nothing. As the Resilience changed course, Park Yuna noticed something strange happening in the engine room. The power core was glowing brighter than usual, and all the ship's systems were running at higher efficiency. It was like the ship wanted to help with the rescue. Captain, she called over the intercom. The engines are giving us more power than they should. We'll reach the research ship in 2 hours, instead of 4. How is that possible? Li Quan asked. I don't know, but this ship keeps surprising me. When they arrived at the battle zone, the sight made them all gasp. The Scientific Glory was a massive research vessel, 3 times the size of the Resilience. But it was badly damaged, with fires burning along its hull. Around it flew 6 strange ships that looked like they were made of black crystal. Those must be the Voidborn, Jang Minho said, studying the enemy vessels through the sensors. They don't match any known design. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, firing beams of purple energy at the research vessel. Each hit made the big ship shake and spark. Resilience, this is Captain Vex, of the Scientific Glory, came a voice over the radio. The speaker sounded like one of the lizard-like aliens. You must leave immediately. These attackers are beyond your capabilities. Not a chance, Li Quan replied. We're here to help. You're in a cargo ship. You'll be destroyed. Kim Tai-ho was already moving the Resilience toward the battle. As they got closer, something amazing happened. The Voidborn ships seemed to have trouble detecting them. Their weapons kept missing, as if they couldn't get a clear lock on the human vessel. They can't see us properly, Kim Tai-ho said with excitement. Our ship is somehow invisible to their sensors. Impossible, said Jang Minho. Our stealth systems don't work. Maybe they do work, Park Yuna said from engineering. Just not the way we thought. Li Quan made a quick decision. Tai-ho, get us close to the research ship. Nara, open a channel to their crew. Minho, target the closest Voidborn ship. Sir, our weapons are barely functional, Jang Minho reminded him. Then we'll have to be creative. The Resilience dove toward the battle like a tiny fish swimming with sharks. Kim Tai-ho's piloting skills were incredible. He twisted and turned the ship through enemy fire with moves that should have been impossible for such an old vessel. How are you doing that? Park Yuna asked in amazement. I don't know, Kim Tai-ho replied, sweat on his forehead. The ship is responding like it knows what I want before I do it. They reached the Scientific Glory, and Choi Nara made contact with the crew. "We're here to evacuate survivors," she told them. "Get to your escape pods. We can't abandon our research." Captain Vex replied, "We have critical data about ancient artifacts." At that moment, one of the Voidborn ships turned toward the Resilience, its weapons charged with purple light, ready to fire. Jang Minho pulled the trigger on their main gun, not expecting much. What happened next shocked everyone. Instead of the weak energy blast they expected, a brilliant beam of white light shot from their ship. It hit the Voidborn vessel, and the alien ship simply stopped moving, like it had been turned off. What was that? Jang Minho stared at his weapons console in disbelief. "I don't know," Park Yuna said, "but our power core just did something I've never seen before." The remaining Voidborn ships suddenly pulled back. They seemed confused, almost afraid. In the space of a few minutes, they disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the damaged research ship behind. Scientific Glory. This is Resilience. "Are you ready for evacuation?" "How did you do that?" Captain Vex asked. "Our weapons had no effect on them. Yours destroyed one of their ships with a single shot." "We're not sure," Li Quan admitted. "But we can discuss it later. Right now, let's get your people to safety." It took 6 hours to evacuate most of the research ship's crew. The Scientific Glory was too damaged to repair, but they saved 43 lives. As the last escape pod docked with the Resilience, Choi Nara intercepted some strange radio signals. "Captain," she said quietly, "I picked up some Voidborn communications before they left. I can't translate all of it, but they kept saying something about the Awakened Ones and Ancient Guardians." "What does that mean?" Li Quan asked. "I don't know, but they seemed to think our ship was something special." That night, while the rescued scientists slept in the cargo bay, the human crew gathered in their mess hall. Captain Vex joined them, his yellow reptilian eyes full of curiosity. "Your ship is not what it appears to be," Vex said. "The Voidborn have been attacking Federation vessels for months. Our best warships can barely damage them, yet you disabled one of their vessels with ease." Park Yuna looked uncomfortable. "We don't understand it either. Our ship keeps doing things it shouldn't be able to do." "The power readings I detected were incredible," Vex continued. "Technology that advanced doesn't exist in the current galaxy." "What are you saying?" Li Quan asked. "I'm saying your ship might be built with technology from the ancients." The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Everyone in the galaxy had heard legends of the ancients, the first civilization that had vanished mysteriously thousands of years ago. "That's impossible," Jang Minho said. "The Federation would have known." Vex's scaled head tilted slightly. "Would they? Your species is new to the galaxy. Perhaps they gave you this ship without understanding what it really was." Kim Taiho was thinking about how the ship responded to his piloting, almost like it was reading his mind. Park Yuna remembered how the engines seemed to recognize her touch. Choi Nara thought about the strange star charts in the navigation system. "If that's true," Li Quan said slowly, "then we're flying in something incredibly dangerous." "Or incredibly important," Vex replied. "The research we were conducting involved ancient artifacts. The Voidborn attacked us just as we made a breakthrough in understanding their technology." "What kind of breakthrough?" Choi Nara asked. Vex looked around the table at the human faces. "We discovered that ancient technology requires a specific type of neural pattern to fully activate, a genetic marker that we thought was extinct." The crew of the Resilience exchanged glances. They were all thinking the same thing, but none of them wanted to say it out loud. They were no longer just carrying cargo to distant colonies. They were flying in a ship that might hold the key to the greatest mystery in the galaxy. And somewhere out there, the Voidborn were hunting for exactly that. 2 days later, the Resilience docked at Station Prime. Captain Li Quan expected a quiet return, but instead found Admiral Zenth waiting for them with a full security team. The reptilian alien's yellow eyes were brighter than usual, and his scaled hands moved nervously. Captain Li Zenth said as the crew walked down the loading ramp, "We need to talk immediately." "What about?" Li Quan asked, though he had a feeling he already knew. "About how a cargo ship destroyed a vessel when our best warships cannot." The crew was taken to a secure briefing room deep inside the station. The walls were thick metal, and guards stood outside the door. Admiral Zenth sat across from them at a long table, his claws tapping against the surface. "Explain what happened out there," he demanded. Li Quan told the story simply and honestly. The distress call, the rescue, the strange way their ship had behaved during the fight. Zenth listened without speaking, his reptilian face showing no emotion. "Your weapons readings were impossible," Zenth said when Li Quan finished. "The energy signature we detected does not match any known Federation technology." "We don't understand it either," Park Yuna said. "Our ship keeps surprising us." Zenth's eyes focused on her. "You are the engineer. What is your assessment of the vessel?" Park Yuna chose her words carefully. "The ship is old, but well built. Some of the technology is unfamiliar to me." "Unfamiliar how?" "The power systems respond differently than they should, almost like they recognize human touch." For the first time, Zenth showed emotion. His scaled eyebrows rose slightly. Interesting. We will need to inspect your ship thoroughly. Why? Jiang Minho asked. We completed our mission and helped save lives. Because, Zenth said slowly, the Voidborn have been attacking Federation ships for 6 months. They appear without warning, destroy everything, and vanish. No one knows where they come from or what they want. Until now. He activated a hologram that showed the battle site. The destroyed Voidborn ship was highlighted in red. This is the first time anyone has successfully fought them. We need to understand how. After the briefing, the crew was given temporary quarters on the station while their ship was inspected. But Park Yuna was curious about something else. That night, she snuck into the station's computer archives and began searching for information about their ship. What she found made her blood run cold. The next morning, she gathered the crew in Kim Taiho's quarters and shared what she had discovered. The team Resilience isn't a Federation ship, she said quietly. It was found drifting in space 30 years ago, completely empty. No crew, no records, nothing. Found where? Li Quan asked. Near the Void Nebula, in a region that's been quarantined. For decades, the Federation salvage teams brought it back and tried to figure out how it worked. Choi Nara was reading the stolen files on Park Yuna's datapad. According to this, they could never get the ship to operate at full capacity. The power systems would only run at minimal levels. Until they gave it to us, Kim Taiho said. There's more, Park Yuna continued. The ship's hull design doesn't match any Federation species. The computer core uses a completely different programming language. And look at this. She showed them an image of strange symbols carved into the ship's inner walls. The symbols were elegant and flowing, unlike the harsh geometric patterns used by most galactic civilizations. Ancient writing, Jiang Minho said. I've seen similar symbols in archaeological reports. That's what I think too, Park Yuna agreed. Our ship was built by the ancients. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The ancients were the galaxy's greatest mystery. They had built incredible cities on hundreds of worlds, then vanished without explanation thousands of years ago. Their technology was so advanced that modern science barely understood it. If that's true, Li Quan said slowly, then the Federation has been lying to us from the beginning. They knew, Choi Nara said, her voice angry. They knew what this ship was, and they gave it to us anyway. But why? Kim Taiho asked. If it's so valuable, why give it to humans? Park Yuna had been thinking about that. Because they couldn't make it work. For 30 years, their best engineers tried to unlock its secrets. Nothing worked until we touched it. Kim Taiho finished. Over the next few hours, they quietly tested Park Yuna's theory. She accessed the ship's computer systems remotely and discovered something amazing. The ship's true capabilities were incredible. Weapons that could disable enemies without destroying them. Shields that could stop any attack. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days, instead of months, but all of it required something the Federation didn't have. Human neural patterns. The ship is reading our thoughts, Park Yuna explained. Not our minds exactly, but our brain patterns. Our genetic code. It's designed to work with beings like us. Beings like the ancients, Choi Nara added. That evening, Jiang Minho made another discovery. He was studying tactical reports about Voidborn attacks when he noticed a pattern. The attacks weren't random. They were targeting specific Federation facilities. Look at this, he said, showing the others a star map. Every attack site was a research station or archaeological dig. Places where the Federation was studying ancient artifacts. The Voidborn are protecting ancient sites. Li Quan realized, or trying to keep the Federation from misusing ancient technology. Park Yuna said, the pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together. The ancients had left behind guardians to protect their technology from being misused. The Voidborn weren't invaders, they were security systems. But if that was true, why hadn't they attacked the Resilience? Why had they retreated when the human ship appeared? The answer came the next day when Admiral Zenth called them back for another meeting. This time, he wasn't alone. High Regent Vorthok was there, along with representatives from 6 other Federation species. They all looked worried. The Voidborn have escalated their attacks, Zenth announced. 3 more research stations were destroyed yesterday. Hundreds of lives were lost. What does that have to do with us? Li Quan asked. Vorthok's insect eyes glittered. Everything. Our intelligence suggests the Voidborn are searching for something specific, a key that will allow them to access all ancient technology in the galaxy. The human crew exchanged glances. They were all thinking the same thing. We believe, Zenth continued, that your ship might be that key. You want to use us. As bait, Jiang Minho said flatly. We want to end this war before it destroys the Federation, Vorthok replied. The Voidborn will come for your ship eventually. When they do, we will be ready. And if we refuse, Li Quan asked. Zenth's smile showed his sharp teeth. Then humanity's membership in the Federation will be ... reconsidered. After the meeting, the crews sat in their quarters, trying to decide what to do. They were trapped between the Federation's demands and the growing voidborn threat. But Park Yuna had been thinking about something else. What if we're looking at this wrong, she said. What if the voidborn aren't the enemy? What do you mean? Choi Nara asked. Think about it. They only attack Federation ships that are misusing ancient technology. They retreated when they saw our ship. Maybe they recognized it as legitimate. Kim Tae-ho was nodding slowly. You think they see us as the rightful owners of ancient technology? Maybe, or maybe they see us as something else entirely. That night, alone in her quarters, Park Yuna made a decision. She accessed the ship's deepest computer files, using her engineering codes to go places no Federation technician had ever reached. What she found there changed everything. Hidden in the ship's core memory was a message, written in ancient symbols but somehow perfectly understandable to her human mind. To the children who were lost, the time of awakening has come. Seek the source. Reclaim your heritage. Beware those who would corrupt the gift. Park Yuna stared at the message for a long time. Children who were lost. Herod as the implications were staggering. The next morning, she gathered the crew and showed them what she had found. The message hung in the air between them like a bridge to an impossible future. We're not just compatible with ancient technology, she said quietly. I think we are the ancients. Or their descendants. Humans didn't evolve on Earth by accident. We were put there, hidden away, kept safe until we were ready. Ready for what? Lee Kwan asked. Park Yuna looked at each of her crewmates in turn. Ready to come home. Captain Lee Kwan made his decision at dawn. The Federation wanted to use them as bait, but he had a different plan. If the Resilience was truly an ancient ship, and if humans were connected to that lost civilization, then they needed to find the truth themselves. We're leaving, he told his crew, as they gathered in the mess hall. Before the Federation can stop us, where will we go? Choi Nara asked. Park Yuna spread out a star chart on the table. The ship's navigation system has been showing me routes that don't exist on any Federation map. Ancient paths through space. I think one of them leads to something important. Kim Tae-ho studied the strange routes. This one goes deep into uncharted space, way beyond Federation territory. Into voidborn space, Jang Minho added grimly. Maybe that's where we need to go, Lee Kwan said. If we're going to understand what's happening, we need to face the voidborn directly. 2 hours later, the Resilience slipped away from Station Prime. While the Federation fleet was busy with a training exercise, Park Yuna had disabled the tracking systems, and Kim Tae-ho flew them out using the ship's mysterious stealth capabilities. As they jumped to hyperspace. Following the ancient navigation routes, the ship began to change. Lights appeared along the walls that hadn't worked before. Computer systems came online that no Federation engineer had ever seen. The entire vessel hummed with new energy. It's like the ship is waking up, Park Yuna said from her engineering station. All the systems we thought were broken are actually just sleeping. For 3 days, they traveled through empty space, following the ancient route deeper into the unknown. On the 4th day, Kim Tae-ho detected something on the sensors. Ships ahead, he announced. Lots of them. The main screen showed a fleet of voidborn vessels waiting for them. Dozens of the black crystal ships hung in space like silent guardians, but they didn't attack. They just waited. They knew we were coming, Choi Nara said. A voice suddenly filled the bridge. It wasn't spoken through the radio, but seemed to come from the ship itself. The words were in no language they recognized, but somehow they understood perfectly. Welcome, children of the First. We have waited long for your return. Lee Kwan stood up slowly. You're the Voidborn. We are the Guardians, created by your ancestors to protect their legacy. We have watched over the galaxy, keeping the unworthy from corrupting the gifts left behind. The Federation isn't unworthy, Choi Nara protested. They're trying to help their people, are they? The voice seemed sad. Show them, Ship of the First. Show them what the Federation has done. The Resilience's main screen lit up with images from across the galaxy. Federation scientists were taking ancient artifacts and turning them into weapons. Beautiful healing devices became torture machines. Peaceful energy sources were turned into planet-killing bombs. Everywhere, the Federation was twisting ancient technology into tools of war and control. They do not understand. The Guardian voice continued. The ancients created their technology to help, to heal, to bring peace. But lesser minds see only power to be seized. Jang Minho was studying the tactical display. You've been trying to stop them. We have, but our methods are ... limited. We can destroy the corrupted technology, but we cannot teach wisdom. That was never our purpose. Park Yuna had been thinking about something. Why didn't you attack us? Our ship has ancient technology too. Because you are not corrupting it. The ship recognizes your genetic patterns, your neural pathways. You are the descendants of those who built it. In your hands, ancient technology works as it was meant to work. The revelation hit them like a physical blow. They weren't just compatible with ancient technology, they were the living heirs of the galaxy's greatest civilization. But that's impossible, Kim Tae-ho said. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records, DNA evidence. Earth was a sanctuary world, the Guardian explained. When the first faced their final crisis, they sent their children to distant worlds, to grow and learn in safety. Earth was one of many such places. What crisis? Li Quan asked. The ship's screen showed new images. Ancient cities burning. Great ships fleeing into space. A civilization destroying itself not through war, but through its own success. The first created technology so powerful that it attracted attention from beyond the galaxy. Dark forces that sought to claim that power for themselves. Rather than let their gifts be corrupted, the first chose to hide their children and fade into legend. And now, Choi Nara asked, now the cycle repeats. The Federation has found enough ancient technology to draw the same dark attention. Soon, forces from beyond will come to claim what they see as rightfully theirs. Park Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. Unless we stop them, yes, but not through violence. The ship you fly is not a weapon of war. It is something far more powerful. It is a key to what? Li Quan asked. The Resilience began to move without Kim Taiho touching the controls. It flew toward the center of the Voidborn fleet, where a massive structure waited. It looked like a space station, but it was clearly ancient in design, all flowing curves and crystalline spires. The heart of all things, the Guardian said, the central control system for every piece of ancient technology in the galaxy. From here, the first could activate or deactivate their creations across 1,000,000 worlds. The ship docked with the station automatically. As the crew walked through the airlock, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with floating holograms and streams of pure light. At the center sat a simple chair, clearly designed for someone with human proportions. One of you must sit there, the Guardian voice explained, the one who will take responsibility for the ancient legacy. The crew looked at each other. This wasn't just about flying a ship anymore. This was about controlling technology that could reshape the galaxy. What happens if we do this? Li Quan asked. All corrupted ancient technology will shut down. The Federation's stolen power will disappear. The galaxy will have to find new ways to solve its problems, peaceful ways, and if we don't, then the dark forces will come. They will claim the ancient technology and use it to enslave every world in the galaxy, including Earth. Park Yuna stepped forward. There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling us. The Guardian was quiet for a moment. The process will send a signal across the galaxy. Every descendant of the first will hear it. On Earth, on the hidden sanctuary worlds, in the gene lines scattered throughout the stars. They will remember who they are. How many? Kim Taiho asked. Millions, maybe billions. The first were very thorough in their preparations. Jiang Min was thinking about the implications. The Federation won't like losing their advanced weapons. No, they will not. They will see this as an attack on their civilization. There will be anger, possibly war. But it's the right thing to do. Choi Nara said quietly. Li Quan looked at his crew, then at the chair, waiting in the center of the chamber. The decision would affect not just them, but every living being in the galaxy. The Federation had given them the weakest ship as a joke, never knowing they were handing humanity the key to the greatest power in the galaxy. Captain Park Yuna said, the ship is responding to all of us, but you're the commander. This should be your choice. Li Quan nodded and walked toward the chair. As he sat down, the entire station came alive around him. He could feel every piece of ancient technology in the galaxy, from tiny medical devices to massive space stations. All of it connected, all of it waiting for his command. But he could also feel something else. Ships moving in the darkness between galaxies, ancient enemies that had been waiting for this moment for thousands of years. They were coming, drawn by the power signature of activated ancient technology. How long do we have? He asked. Days, perhaps weeks. The Guardian replied. But you are not alone. The awakening has begun. Children of the first across the galaxy are remembering their heritage. Soon, you will have allies you never knew existed. Li Quan closed his eyes and reached out with his mind to touch every corrupted piece of ancient technology in Federation space. With a thought, he could shut it all down, but that would be just the beginning. The real war was about to start. Captain Li Quan sat in the ancient chair, feeling the power of 1,000,000 worlds flowing through his mind. He could sense every piece of ancient technology in the galaxy, from tiny healing devices to massive stargates. Most importantly, he could feel which ones had been corrupted by the Federation into weapons of war. Are you ready? Asked the Guardian voice that surrounded them. Li Quan looked at his crew one last time. Park Yuna gave him an encouraging nod. Kim Taiho stood ready at the controls. Choi Nara monitored the communications from across the galaxy. Jiang Minho watched the tactical displays, ready for whatever came next. Do it, Li Quan said. He reached out with his mind and touched every corrupted ancient device in Federation space. With a single thought, he shut them all down. Across the galaxy, things began to change instantly. On Station Prime, Admiral Zenth was in a meeting when every ancient-powered weapon in the Federation fleet suddenly went dark. The powerful shields that protected their stations flickered and died. The super-fast engines that moved their largest ships stopped working. What's happening? Zenth shouted at his technicians. All ancient technology has shut down, sir, came the panicked reply. Every weapon, every shield, every advanced system we built using their artifacts. High Regent Vorthex's forearms moved frantically as he tried to contact his battle fleets. Half of his ships were now floating helplessly in space, their most powerful systems dead. But something else was happening too. On Earth, people were waking up from strange dreams. Dreams of flying between the stars, of cities made of crystal and light, of a great civilization that had once spanned the galaxy. In small towns and big cities, humans were remembering things they had never learned. Dr. Sarah Kim, a physicist in Seoul, suddenly understood how to build engines that could cross the galaxy in days. She had never studied such things, but the knowledge was there in her mind, clear as daylight. In New York, engineer Marcus Park found himself drawing blueprints for healing machines that could cure any disease. The designs flowed from his hands like he had built them 1,000 times before. All over Earth, humans were awakening to their ancient heritage. Back on the heart of all things, Joy Nara was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Captain, it's working. I'm getting signals from dozens of worlds. Humans everywhere are remembering who they are. How many? Li Quan asked. Still connected to the ancient control system. Millions, maybe more. There are human colonies we never knew existed. People who were scattered across the galaxy thousands of years ago. Park Yuna was watching the engineering displays. The Guardian ships are moving. They're protecting the awakening humans from Federation forces. Indeed, across the galaxy, voidborn ships were appearing wherever humans were gathering. But they weren't attacking, they were defending the newly awakened descendants of the ancients from Federation troops, who saw them as a threat. Kim Tae-ho was monitoring space around their location. Captain, we have company. Federation fleet approaching fast. On the main screen, they could see hundreds of Federation ships converging on their position. Without their ancient weapons, they were using older technology, but there were so many of them that it hardly mattered. Resilience, this is Admiral Zenth, came an angry voice over the radio. You will surrender immediately and restore our systems, or we will destroy you. I don't think so, Li Quan replied calmly. From his chair, he could see something the Federation couldn't. Dark shapes were moving between the stars, approaching from the edge of the galaxy. The ancient enemies the Guardians had warned about were almost here. Admiral Li Quan said, you need to listen to me. Something worse than you can imagine is coming. We need to work together. The only thing coming is your execution for treason. Zenth snarled. That was when space itself seemed to tear open. Massive ships, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, emerged from hyperspace. They were black as the void between stars, and they radiated a cold hunger that made everyone who saw them feel afraid. The Devourers whispered the Guardian voice, they have found us at last. The alien ships began attacking everything in sight. Federation vessels exploded under weapons that seemed to eat light itself. Even the powerful Guardian ships were struggling against this ancient enemy. What are they? Zhang Minho asked, watching the battle unfold. They are what destroyed the first civilization, the Guardian explained. Beings from the dark spaces between galaxies. They consume entire civilizations, taking their knowledge and power. Admiral Zenth's voice came over the radio again, but now it was filled with fear instead of anger. What are those things? Your worst nightmare, Li Quan replied. And the reason the ancients hid their children on distant worlds. One of the Devourer ships was heading straight for the heart of all things, its weapons charged with dark energy that seemed to bend space around it. Captain, Park Yuna said urgently, the ship wants to do something. I can feel it through the engineering systems. Li Quan could feel it too. The Resilience was connected to every other ancient ship in the galaxy, and they were all waiting for his command. Not to fight, the ancients had never been warriors, but to do something else entirely. What do you want us to do? He asked the ship's AI. Become what you were always meant to be, came the reply. Unite the scattered children. Show the galaxy what the first truly were. Li Quan understood. He reached out through the ancient network, connecting his mind to every awakened human in the galaxy. Suddenly, he could see through a million eyes, think with a million minds. On Earth, on space stations, on hidden colonies, humans were joining together in ways they had never imagined possible. Everyone, Li Quan said, his voice carrying across space to every human who had remembered their heritage. We are the children of the ancients. We are the guardians of peace, the builders of hope. Today, we reclaim our birthright. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every ancient device in the galaxy that had been used for peaceful purposes suddenly came back online, but stronger than ever before. Healing stations began curing diseases that had plagued worlds for centuries. Terraforming machines started turning dead planets into gardens. Communication networks connected isolated worlds for the first time. But most importantly, the ancient defense systems activated. The Devourer ships found themselves trapped in fields of energy that neutralized their weapons. Their dark power couldn't touch the light of ancient technology when it was used by its rightful inheritors. Impossible, Admiral Zenth gasped over the radio. How are you doing this? We're not fighting them, Li Quan explained. We're healing them. It was true. The ancient defense systems weren't destroying the Devourer ships. They were cleansing them of the dark hunger that drove them, restoring them to what they had been before they became monsters. One by one, the Devourer ships stopped attacking. Their crews, freed from the corruption that had consumed them for millennia, sent signals of gratitude before departing for their home between the galaxies. The battle was over. But the real work was just beginning. In the days that followed, everything changed. The Federation found itself dealing with millions of awakened humans who possessed knowledge and technology beyond anything they had ever seen. But these humans didn't seek to conquer or control. They offered to help. Admiral Zenth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching human engineers repair his ship's systems with technology that made Federation science look primitive. Why are you helping us? He asked Park Yuna, who was working on his main computer. Because that's what the ancients did, she replied simply. They helped, they healed, they brought worlds together. High Regent Vorthok was less accepting. You have made yourselves the most powerful species in the galaxy, he accused Li Quan during a tense meeting on Station Prime. No, Li Quan corrected. We've made ourselves the most responsible species in the galaxy. There's a difference, and there was. Across space, humans were sharing ancient knowledge freely, teaching other species how to use it properly. Weapons were converted to tools. War machines became construction equipment. The galaxy began to heal from centuries of conflict. Kim Taiho became the first human to pilot an ancient starship designed for exploration, leading missions to discover new worlds and new forms of life. Choi Nara established the first intergalactic communication network, connecting the Milky Way to distant galaxies in friendship rather than conquest. Zhang Minho founded a new kind of military force, one dedicated to protecting peace rather than waging war. The Guardian Corps, as it came to be known, worked alongside the ancient Voidborn to keep the galaxy safe from those who would misuse power. And Park Yuna, she became the galaxy's first ancient engineer, teaching others how to build technologies that helped instead of harmed, that created instead of destroyed. As for the Resilience, it was honored as the ship that changed everything. The weakest vessel in the galaxy had become the most important, not because of its weapons, but because of the hope it carried. Captain Li Quan often stood on its bridge, looking out at the stars and thinking about how far they had all come. The Federation had given humans the worst ship as a joke, never knowing they were handing them the key to the galaxy's future. They had thought humans were weak. They had been wrong about everything. Humans weren't weak. Peace, finally come home.